Well, hello, strangers, and welcome to Momentous Live episode 162, if memory serves. I'm Tristan Jutra. I guess we might as well go down the list.
Sure, I'm Will Silver.
I'm Gray Williams.
And I'm Jerome Matthew.
Special guest. And if you've forgotten, you can find out all about the Momentous crew at momentous.tv. Tasia Custodi could not join us this evening because she puts politics before people. Watching, quote unquote, enjoying the presidential debate. We'll see. But we hope to have her
saving
back.
me from doing that.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay,
This is.
It can't be. It can't. It's there's no way it can be any more painful than the last one.
This is self-care. We crawled out from under our respective rocks to talk about Apple event, unusually on a Tuesday this week. But before we get into that, just one little bit of follow-up, and that is from Volkswagen. How many years ago did we talk about the Volkswagen ID Buzz, their modern take on their Microbus? Look at this thing. Well, it's finally been announced with a price, MSRP of 60 grand for the base Pro S model. And I mean, it's cute as a button, but it's not in my price range. Gray, as someone who has been a bit of a camping enthusiast in the past, I can only imagine some of the customizations that are going to happen with things, camping and otherwise. What's your initial take on this all-electric version of the classic Volkswagen Microbus?
This is kind of exactly what I was looking for. I'm looking at the Rivian pickup truck. Was sort of could I be a pickup truck driver? Maybe. This is what I want. Lots of interior space, some decent carrying capacity, a little bit of towing capacity, and just it's beautiful. I really like it. I don't $60,000 US like it, but I really like it. I was thinking about actually starting to bank with Chase down in the States to see if maybe I could afford to pay for one of these things.
Yeah, it's one of these things. It's like, oh, it's so close yet so far.
Yeah.
In this economy, come on.
Yeah.
I think I may have shared with you guys in the past that I had a running joke with a couple of friends during high school that someday I was just going to live in a VW van. Hasn't
Down
happened
by
yet,
the river or
Yeah.
anywhere specific?
Exactly.
Hopefully not, but
if I play my cards wrong, that's exactly what will end up happening. But just, I think it was growing up on fish boats. I like the idea of driving your house around. Just have all your stuff, live minimally because you have to, and just go wherever you want, the open road, and take your stuff with you. Unfortunately,
I've dubbed this thing the Bestphalia in my mind.
the Bestphalia. Perfect. All right. So, just a little bit of follow-up there. It's going to be hitting the U.S. Streets. Is it this fall or next spring? I missed the details there, but it's coming soon. You can Google. There'll be a link in the show notes. Let's get on to the Apple stuff because we got lots of Apple news based on the Apple GLOWTIME event which was on Monday. Normally on Tuesdays, but they moved it. They made sure it was Monday so it wouldn't conflict with the presidential debate. And they wouldn't want to put it on Wednesday because they still don't like to put it on September 11th because reasons.
Fair.
So
also, the September the 9th, 2024 is the 25th anniversary of the Dreamcast, which I can't help but think didn't factor into this at all.
I saw some news headline about the Dreamcast, and I can't remember what it was. So great story. There's something today, something to do with a game off. Maybe someone can Google it. It'll show up there. But just as a high level overview before what's that?
The 25th anniversary yesterday.
No, but there's something else. There's something about an old game that's been, I don't know, it was something resurrected. Well, when one of you gets talking, I'll look it up. So overview of the event, we're gonna talk about the new AirPods, new Apple Watch, new iPhones, and then of course in the iPhone discussion, a lot of it has to do with some of the features introduced initially at WWDC, the Apple's Worldwide Developers Conference back in June. iOS 18. And what we're going to see of the Apple Intelligence features actually rolling out right away, probably not a lot quite yet, but that is what a lot of folks are ultimately waiting for. So let's go in kind of the order that they did in the event. I think they started with the AirPods first, and basically the big highlight was AirPods 4. So kind of the entry level AirPods without the rubber tips, so not the AirPods Pro. They're in the 4th generation now. They've iterated on the 3 with the more modern design, the stubby stems, which is more like the Pro. But the big headline feature here is that they've somehow got active noise cancellation going on in the Pros, even though you don't have the silicone tips for the the full isolation going on there. They've reconfigured some of the microphone setups and whatnot in there. And the other quick little AirPods news: AirPods Max, new colors, midnight
And
blue,
USB-C.
purple. Yes, midnight blue, purple, orange, and starlight, and the USB-C charging, but no other features added there. And they still don't support Apple lossless. Don't get me started. And then they also introduced the there's 2 tiers for the AirPods 4, which is going to be confusing, as you can tell with my confusion right here. AirPods 4, which is kind of like the upgrade to the AirPods 3, and then AirPods 4 with active noise canceling. So there's 2 tiers, two price points for people to get in there. Jerome, as you know, being one of our in-house, we got lots of audio guys here, but as our most audio of the audio guys, any thoughts on what's going on with the AirPods 4, how they managed to get active noise canceling in there without the full isolation? I'm sure it's not going to be quite as good. And any other thoughts on what we're seeing here in the AirPods updates?
Well, I might, forgive me if I mix up the AirPods Pro and the 4, but I do think it makes sense to have the 2 tiers, because noise canceling is a more expensive and complex feature that not everyone needs.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes sense to have 2 options. I'm new to noise canceling. I just recently got some noise canceling headphones, and I'm playing with them and getting my head around that. I never jumped on the AirPods or AirPods Pro bandwagon because I've accepted that I'm an earbud incompatible human. And after many years of trying to use them, I'm just given up, and I've gone over the ear headphones. And
especially for your pro work, and you're mostly wired in for low latency, right?
Yeah, but I do have wireless headphones now that are noise canceling,
Mm-hmm.
that you can also plug in. But I went with Sennheiser because they had some of the features I wanted, and I believe they were a fair bit cheaper than the Pros over the ear, they have a mic built in and all this stuff that is handy to have. So just for more recreational use, but can be used for professional use as well. But I do think that these new AirPods have directed the driver towards your ear in a way that allow the noise canceling without the technical features, the mechanics of the other headphones somehow.
Yeah, they're
Something
shooting
like
right into the ear canal as opposed to like into the sort of indirectly in there. And so, and just to your first point, there's been no hardware update to the AirPods Pro, so they're still on their own with the AirPods Pro 2, the 2nd generation ones. So it's basically they've introduced the AirPods 4, but made 2 tiers, one with the noise canceling and one without. So they've got the entry level without, and then again, it's confusing for It's going to be confusing for shoppers as well. It's like, these look the same. Why are they different prices? So it's just like an extra feature set on there. So to your point, yeah, they've reconfigured the microphone array in the ears, and then it listens to what your ears are hearing, basically, and then using the speakers in there to sort of cancel out the waveform to for the external noise to make it feel like even without that silicone tip in there. So that's pretty cool. Now, how's your experience so far with noise canceling in your work? Some people find it a little off-putting because it can add some pressure in there. The pressure in these ones probably won't be as great because there's not the seal, but for your sort of sensitive audio work, do you find the noise canceling actually helps, or does it actually distract you?
I think sometimes when there's suddenly a lot of noise, it's nice to be able to turn them on and then hear what you're hearing more clearly, but it's a bit unnerving to leave it on all the time and for long periods. I prefer like what's called just simple closed headphones, where they're covering your ear enough to block out the outside sound in a more natural way, which is typically what we use for doing audio work, and is a closed versus semi-open. But then the funny thing is, for mixing and doing sound work, we tend to use semi-open purely specifically to make it sound more natural, where you have some leakage and then it sounds more natural and it's more comfortable for listening, actually, as opposed to close, would block out the sound. And what you might want if you're recording and you don't want sound coming out of the headphones into your microphone and such. So there's different reasons for different type of headphones, but the noise canceling is handy when you have a lot of external noise and you want to focus on what you're hearing. So that's my take on it. I'm still getting used to it, and I wouldn't turn it on all the time for sure, unless I haven't used it on an airplane, but I have a feeling I might want to have it on a plane a lot.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
But in those situations. But
Yeah.
there's another thing that I noticed about these AirPods that make it better at doing blocking the sound, which they seem to have extended the frequency range. And typically headphones, they have a frequency range. They feel this is what you need to hear to do what you would want to do with these devices, and we're going to cut off everything beyond that because you either can't hear it well anyway, or because it's going to cost more and the technical specs are more complicated. But they've extended it because they realized, much like people who love vinyl, that those frequencies you can't hear are also beneficial, not only for the harmonics, but because in this case it can analyze more of the noise and then therefore to remove it better if it has a more wide frequency range. So that's interesting to read about these, is that they have this wider frequency range, I think, that allow it to do a better job. So that's one of the other tech tweaks there.
Nice.
And I did read something about, or hear something about, it being able to be used as a hearing aid, which is very cool, I think.
Yeah, it was just I was just going to table that just for a sec.
Sure.
Will, just you got into the AirPods Pro lifestyle a year or two ago, and having sort of not been in that universe for a little while, how have you found going, like, did you have in-ear before? Or were you always cans or like kind of loosey goosey earbuds?
I was always wired cans. I'm kind of like Jerome. I mean, I think it's my DJ thing is that, I mean, as I'm wearing now, I'm wearing DJ headphones right now, is that I like the wired and I like the over the ear. It feels natural to me. If I need to hear something, I just do something like that, or you know,
when you're taking a request from a
taking a request, or like, sorry, can't hear you. Yeah. And these ones like fold over and all that fun stuff or whatever. Yeah. So I think I expressed here before that I would never have bought earbuds Pro or otherwise before, but I was actually fortunate enough to have a pair through work. Nice. And I have to admit, I wear them all the time. I don't use them for work functions or for making music or anything like that, but I'm not really ashamed of talking about it, but I have some anxiety issues and sound issues, just from some of my head injury stuff. So I actually find that just walking around with them on, or going to the gym or things like that in noisy environments, I just wear them all the time. It's I'm constantly wearing them. So they've actually become a necessary item. If I was to lose them, I would probably have to buy another pair. So
they're easy to lose. Let me tell you.
Yeah. So, but the funny thing is, I just mostly use them for the noise canceling. I don't use them that often for the actual listening to music or anything like that. I do. I think I've expressed this story before, but I'll say it again. I love walking over the bridge on my way to work and getting a text from Tristan and Siri telling me, Tristan says, I can't believe I ate the whole thing. Smiley face emoji. Thumbs up emoji. Ha ha ha.
Yeah, it's useful for that, and as well the occasionally call that you might get, and you don't have to pull
Yeah.
your phone out.
And also how it describes photos to you now, which is
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
in the last few months as part of, I guess, a later update to iOS
Yeah,
17.
yeah.
But speaking of having them in all the time, despite the mockery that ensued after the original AirPods were originally announced, people thought, oh, why did they cut off the wires? It looks dumb. And they've become totally normalized. And one part of normalization, one advantage of normalization is people can now wear them for other reasons. And Apple has talked about informal use as hearing aids. But Gray, now Apple in their announcement on Monday said that they're basically very close to approval with various health authorities around the world to have the AirPods Pro 2. So there's no new AirPods Pro model, but the Pro 2 that's been out for a couple of years now is being upgraded in status and having features enhanced to serve as an actual hearing aid. What can you tell us about that?
So now, was there not an AirPods Pro 3 announced?
Nope.
Really?
Nope. We're still in the 2.
I completely...
It was the additional features to the Pro 2, such as the clinical grade hearing aid feature.
Okay, so here's the thing. I have owned AirPods Pro. I've owned AirPods Pro 2. The transparency feature, the ability to wear them and have them feel like you're not wearing them, is the number one killer app for me. But I also recognize the fact that, maybe my hearing isn't quite as good as it has been in the past. My mother talked to me after this Apple event. She said, we need to get your father some AirPods Pro. That's how prevalent I think this feature is going to be. The idea that you're going to be able to take a 5-minute test on your phone that will be essentially audiologist approved. Now, I'm sure there's some audiologists out there who are going to say, this is very frustrating. This
Buy
is
my
a
product.
New screen that, and also now the fact that these $300 and some odd headphones can now take the place of multiple thousands of dollars worth of hearing aids. I think this is the very definition of industry disruption. This is honestly what a fantastic feature. I've used the live listen feature in the past, where you can actually have your phone act as a microphone, so you can put it in one room, walk away, and that way you can kind of hear what's going on with somebody else. So if you need to get instructions, say you're working on putting in a new light switch, and turn the breaker off. Breaker's off. Great. Okay, now I can go and test it. So that's a cool little feature. But actually being able to go through this whole process, I wouldn't say recently. I had an audiologist test about 6 years ago, and fascinating experience sitting in this very quiet room and listening to these tones, and being able to do that on your phone. Again, if you're experiencing serious hearing loss, probably going to an audiologist is going to be a good choice for you. But this is data gathered from Apple's health surveys as well. So there's sort of this, there was a master plan, and there continues to be a master plan of Apple integrating into your life in a number of different ways. And the health aspect, which we've talked about for years at this point, is becoming more and more prevalent. The fascinating thing here is that this is a data-driven feature that people obviously can use, and it's driven by the data that they've gathered from folks who are doing things like personalized spatial audio. So, when we look at these headphones now, adaptive audio, conversational awareness, so these are features that will lower the volume if there's a loud noise or a series of loud noises. I've used adaptive audio when I'm working with power tools, able to basically take that noise, and on your watch where it says it's over 92 decibels and 30 minutes of this is going to damage your hearing, and you've got these things in, you don't need to worry about it because it's pulling that volume down. It takes it down to about 60 decibels. Absolutely brilliant. Conversational awareness. You're sitting there and you go into a coffee shop. You can stop your music, but you can also, hey, here's what I'd like. And it actually gives you enough time for that person to respond to you. You continue talking, that audio is ducked until they come back. It's tough right now for me to look at my Apple products and say, which one is my favorite? Because all of these things are filling a little gap in my life, And Will, to your point, the idea of being somewhere and having the ability to just reduce the noise level. AirPods Pro are a must take with me when I go to Costco. I'm not even kidding. My stress
Yeah.
levels at Costco when I don't
Yeah.
have these things in are
Take the edge off.
way up there.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, what it does is it sort of blunts society a little bit, which feels a little bit like Blade Runner or 200 Dreams of Electric Sheep.
Sure.
But here we are.
Can I share how they've also changed one part of society? Is when I go to the gym, I put them in. Everyone is wearing them. Whether it's because gym music is notoriously bad. There's like a remix of like Pirates of the Caribbean techno remix that plays all the time. It's so horrendous. So everyone's just putting in their ear, and like if you need to ask anyone like, "Hey, are you using that weight?" They're like, "What? What?" They have to take out their earbud and be like, "Say what?" So we're all just like walking around in our little shells in the gym. It's like everyone's in their own little environment. It's funny.
And that's where the adaptive transparency mode can help. Like Gray says, you can it'll duck the audio so you can actually hear the person. And resume automatically once it senses you're.
And I don't have that problem, but people seem to have to take their earbuds out. I don't know.
Well, if they're wearing older versions, they will do that.
The nice thing as well is, with the prevalence of AirPods and other wireless earphones, if someone is trying to talk to you and you don't want to talk to them, sorry, I'm on a call.
Yeah.
I just know that the noise cancellation. I gotta remember to wear them AirPods into the washroom, because some air hand dryers are so loud. Like I get warnings on my Apple Watch saying this is above 90 decibels. It's like So I forget. Okay, that's a lot more time than I was expecting on just the AirPods, but good stuff there. Next up, we had a couple of Apple Watch announcements, similar to the AirPods Pro in one way. The highlight features: Apple Watch Series 10 with new design, barely larger screens, a little bit thinner. They've stretched out a little bit, thinned the bezels a little bit, and ultimately, I mean, there's longer battery life, sleep apnea detection, which is pretty cool. And then as for the Ultra, no new Ultra except there's like a new color or something? Yeah, black. Yeah, there's a satin black color.
Ultra Hermes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, and the Hermes as well. But for the Apple Watch Series 10, we've got a jet black, which is pretty cool. And they're made. They're all they're aluminum for the regular ones, and for the nicer ones are in titanium, of course, like before. But the Ultra, there's no Ultra 3, which is I found surprising because I was kind of holding out for an Ultra 3. But they've got a new color, and the Hermes. But that's kind of it. Now, Will, what is your? You've been rocking you went in hard. You went from kind of like you did with the AirPods. You just kind of bide your time, and then you get the best. You went straight to the Apple Watch Ultra 2. We've got no updates, aside from the color there. And how are you enjoying the Apple Watch Ultra 2 so far, and how has it changed, the way you move about in the world, or the things you track? Because I know this wasn't your first fitness tracker, but have you been able to do more with it than simply what you did with your Fitbit?
Well, I brought in my official satin black consultant here, so actually he's just
that looks more like space gray.
Yeah, space gray. I mean it has become a key part of my life. I think I've said before, there's a few little nitpicks I would have, at least on the fitness tracking aspect. I do love some of the other features that it has. I know Gray pointed out the flashlight, which I use every night. So things like that. I mean, I do think that getting it a little bit smaller is actually a nice thing. I mean, if you can increase the screen size, that's great. But the thickness it's a little chunky.
On the Ultra,
the Ultra. So that would be nice maybe for an Ultra 3, and the Apple Watch 10, I've never had one, so I don't know if that's an issue there, but having it a little bit thinner and wider is who could complain? Get it paper thin and 10 feet wide. I don't know.
I'm torn because I like the extra battery life that the Ultra offers, but I mean, I'm on a Series 6 right now, and I can probably try and hold out for one more year. I'm surprised they called this one the Series 10 1.0 instead of like using an X as Apple has been fond of doing in the past, but maybe they've outgrown the X, like some people. So. So the other cool feature with the Series 10 is the increased range of refresh rates. Not necessarily increased rate. I guess that was on the phone that we'll get to in a bit. But now they are making it so that instead of updating just once a minute for the time, it'll update once a second. So you'll get your ticking second hand, and it'll still keep dimmed the rest of the OLED screen dimmed and whatnot, but you still see an advancing second hand. We'll see how that impacts the battery life. Hopefully not too much, but previously it would only update once a minute or so, just in the interest of preserving battery life as much as possible. Jerome, what's it going to take you to get you in the Apple Watch lifestyle?
Well, if I can replace my iPhone, then I'm in.
Because a little ways off, yeah.
That's like, it would have to be able to do what my iPhone does, and then I can leave my iPhone at home. But I know that's like a big ask, but I know the Ultra's gotten close. Mm-hmm. But I do think the sleep apnea function is pretty cool. I mean, if you don't have to spend a weekend in a sleep clinic and you can find out if you may have issues, that's pretty cool. And maybe even, help you a little bit with it, like with a little buzzing when you may be snoring or something, and then like to move you, like those, we have apps that can do that, and that's very cool to help people with this, because this is a big concern for a lot of people, and a lot of people don't know that they even have it. So if this can tell you, you may be having breathing issues that could kill you, it's pretty cool. I mean, if a device can do that. I also don't know if I haven't checked on improvements related to functions to help you find out if you have any issues with blood pressure or those kind of things. That
not yet. They're working on it, but blood pressure is a little ways off yet.
Yeah, so that to me might be something to push me, because I think that's a concern as well for a lot of people and could save your life potentially. So like if that was the case, I might say, okay, this is now ready, worth for me to jump in. So those kind of things, yeah.
So what we need to get you in with the program, blood pressure monitoring, and maybe like a 13-inch screen, so you could use it.
Yeah, big screen it would be nice, and thin and compact, and if it can, do almost as much as my
maybe
my
a
Apple Watch,
and a trackpad as well, just around it.
Yeah.
I'd probably be okay with it being able to do CarPlay stuff. That would be like, okay, that's probably good enough.
I think we've talked about this before. I mean, this is a bit of a limited market, but I don't know about you guys, but I mean, the sleeve, like the sleeve with the flexible OLEDs. What's that?
Like the Pip-Boy from Fallout.
Yeah,
yes.
Right. Like just having if you want to go full nerd out,
the Apple Gauntlet.
Exactly.
No, like I think if Jobs was working on this, we would see a thick band, instead of a watch-looking device that would do the same thing with a massive screen, and it would probably have the same weight, the same kind of size factor, but a much bigger screen, and it would also look super high tech.
And it would cost $5,000.
They would probably cost a lot of money too. Yeah. So maybe the tech isn't there, but
I take an Apple Gauntlet over Apple Vision Pro 2.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right. Let's move on to the belle of the ball, so to speak, the iPhone 16 and the iPhone 16 Pro, and there's also they're keeping the 16. The Plus is still around this year. There's been rumors that there's not going to be a 17 Plus. So we've got the two sizes of the iPhone 16. Then we've got the two sizes of the iPhone 16 Pro Max. Feels in a lot of ways like an iterative update, really boosting the hardware. They've gone from an A16 to an A18 in the iPhones, and then the A18 Pro processor in the iPhone Pro models. Really getting ready for Apple Intelligence when those features start to hit. You got to have that horsepower there. Gray, what are your key takeaways from the iPhone 16 and 16 Pro announcements? What is there any reason for, like, how old an iPhone do we need to be to be wanting to or needing to upgrade at this point?
So I think anybody on an iPhone 11 or earlier, absolutely. You know what? Go buck wild. Grab yourself a 16 or a 16 Pro. Everybody 12 and up. How's your budget doing? Um, it's like looking at this thing. There is something absolutely phenomenal about it, and it's that camera control button.
Yes.
And the camera control button is cool, right? It's this additional new button, kind of like the action button on the on
Watch.
15, in addition to, and on the watch. And looking at this, it's not just a camera control button. It also does function as an Apple Intelligence button. This contextual button has the ability for soft presses, hard presses, and
sliding too, to zoom in and out.
yeah.
Yeah.
So looking at this, all of the new iPhone 16s have it. They've done it again, where they've got this sort of like trickle down economics thing, where they draw a line in the sand like they did with the M series processors, where now all of our computers, all of our phones have this particular feature, which means if you're designing for something as a developer, you've got this thing in your hands. What's the hardest thing about talking about AI to ordinary people? How the hell do I interface with this? Right? This button right here is now about to put AI and generative content in the hands of ordinary people with an interface that is unlike anything that they're using right now. This to me is the key thing, right? There's so many cool things about what they're doing with Apple Intelligence, which again, they keep saying the iPhone 16 will and the iPhone 16 Pro will do this. Not at launch, but it will do this.
Yeah, eventually.
Which is great. I mean, I would rather have them, launch the phone, launch the OS, postpone the feature, and get it right.
And that's that's a trend we've seen the last few years, the last few versions of iOS. They're not panicking to get everything in the first release. They're dripping the features out throughout the year.
Yeah, and I mean, so
Get it right.
Here's the thing. We're 30% faster. How can you even tell at this point?
Yeah.
Like, it's like, and so this is one of the wonderful things about having an older model iPhone, like an iPhone 14, and it's fine. I just had it replaced because I don't know if I mentioned to you guys, I tripped up a flight of stairs in New West
Uh-oh.
and landed on my phone.
Oh no.
It was $129 to get it replaced under AppleCare.
Thanks.
Bless
But
you,
as long as your
Jesus.
phone protected you, then it's
No
worth
broken
it.
ribs, just broken pride.
Oh,
But looking
Yeah.
at this, it's like I want this, but the TikTok rhythm is kind of like, I could wait this one out. This button right here, I'm excited for the folks who are going to get new phones. It really does take that sort of like the biggest challenge I have with taking pictures with the iPhone is jamming on that camera button on the front because it seems to always bounce on
Yeah.
me. If I have
yeah.
a button on the side
I've missed hitting that too many times, and it's frustrating sometimes.
So just to contextualize for folks that are just listening and not watching with this. So last year with the iPhone 15 Pro, they replaced the ringer switch with a multifunction programmable switch that most people just ended up using for camera control. Now, this year, they've added that same button to the 16 as well. So the lower level, it wasn't on the 15, it was just on the 15 Pro. So now that's come to the 16, but both the 16 and the 16 Pro have a new additional button. I love the way this is going, bringing back the buttons. And it's on the same side of your phone as the power button on the top. So when you're taking, horizontal mode, photos, or video like a proper human, and it's right where you would normally have your finger when you're using a traditional point and shoot camera or even a digital SLR. And then it's a combination. It's actually a physical switch and it's got haptic feedback as well. So you can press it halfway to focus and do other things and press it all the way to take a photo. You can slide back and forth to zoom in and out. Alternatively, you can use it to summon the visual intelligence feature, which will be exclusive to the 16s, which it lets you point your iPhone camera at something to pull up contextual details like information about a restaurant and take actions like filling out a calendar event and so on. So be able to like point your camera at the world and using that dedicated button, being able to interface with AI, as you were sort of alluding to there, Gray. So this is a flush sapphire crystal button. That's a real button, and so I hope the car makers take note. People like actual buttons.
The new cases actually have a nice pass-through for it as well. One thing I did want to say, Jerome, I totally forgot about this one feature that I think would benefit both you and I, which is you don't have to hit the button to get to your camera. You just have to tap and swipe to the right. I keep forgetting about that.
Oh yeah, just in the regular.
Yeah, I gotta do that more often.
Yeah, and
there are ways, to make it simpler.
One of the other things I think this is this has to do with the pipeline, and it has to do with the A18 Pro especially, is apparently the speed to invoke the camera is much quicker now too. It says a lot of times people whip their phone out and you just miss that perfect moment. Now launching the camera app is just that much faster as well. So what else we got here? The iPhone 16, but the reviews are saying like it's, it's a very capable phone. It's got the camera control. It's not limited just to the Pro. Now, and it also has the audio mix features that is shared with the Pro as well. Now, Jerome, this has to do with using the built-in microphones for shooting video and whatnot. What can you tell us about this audio mix feature and with the built-in microphones and so on?
Well, us pro audio guys have had this kind of functionality for years, which is, assuming it's using a similar tech to what we use to isolate dialogue, is it's using thousands of audio files analyzed by AI to distinguish what is dialogue and what is other noise, and so that you can reduce the other noise. And even if that's a person next to you talking or something. In the case of the video they showed. So it's allowing you to, and some even TVs and sound systems have this function too, is enhancing dialogue, which is essentially finding out what is the dialogue and making that more clear and reducing the background other audio that's present besides the voice. And in the case of what we use, it's like, let's say you're walking in a bunch of leaves or something. It can actually reduce the volume of the leaves. You don't have to remove it completely, but reduce that so you can hear the voice more clearly. So I believe that's the technology it's using. And I don't know if they mentioned that that they used AI, but typically this technology,
machine learning, which is
yeah. So
same difference.
Basically, that means is they've analyzed all these audio files with different levels of noise, and the AI has figured out this is the dialogue, this is the voice, and then it's easy to distinguish it and to remove or reduce the other noise so that the speaking is more clear, and makes it the much more professional results. For when you're recording. I guess it's built right in; it just does it automatically on the.
And frankly, it surprises me. I'm not sure what pros would be using the built-in mics on an iPhone, but maybe this is really to enable better qualities for better audio quality for aspiring filmmakers, content creators, and the like, people who maybe don't have a proper pro or semi-pro audio setup, especially when they're out and about, and just in having better audio to capture in the wild without extra gear. It only helps, right? So they've got quote unquote four new studio quality mics on the iPhone 16 Pro and the Pro Max, and you can choose in-frame, cinematic, and studio options. So in-frame isolates the sound from subjects in the scene and cuts out background noise. The studio option mimics the acoustic environment of a recording studio, complete with dampening walls, conversations we've had before, Jerome. And the cinematic mode consolidates all the sounds in the front and center of the space.
Yeah, so I can tell you that there's something else that it's probably doing to make the studio quality level. What that is essentially doing is, beyond removing the background noise, is probably removing or reducing the echo reverberation in the room, and that's also an AI-driven technology that we've had for years, the pros, but this is now becoming to consumers, which is awesome because it just makes everything sound more pro. And even for people who don't have pro equipment, I mean, I would say they're targeting it to like professionals, filmmakers, but really it's it's so consumers can do stuff that sounds more professional, I think, but they don't without all the gear.
So a couple other features that they've added, which might help content creators, is the multi-track recording feature coming to the Pro, but not the regular iPhone 16. And that is in the Voice Memos app, where you could, just lay down some kind of beat or something and then have it playing, and then you can record another track. Maybe you're doing like mouthing out a bass line or singing a little tune or whatnot. So just some very basic multi-track capabilities in the Voice Memo app, which is handy, but that feature is only available on the 16 Pro cameras, as well on the Pro. The promotion screen is, of course, great with high refresh rates and the like, but the enhanced camera hardware, and again, the data pipelines, and thanks to the A18 Pro chip, 4K 120 frame per second video recording. So you can do your buttery smooth slow-mo, get your dogs shaking their head with the water and the drool everywhere, all that stuff that people like to capture. So that's a pretty big deal. That's the kind of thing you could spend thousands of dollars to get cameras that do that well. So some pretty interesting new features there. Again, incremental for regular folks. Some people are disappointed that we're not seeing most of the AI features quite yet. But we talked about it with the WWDC episode. Some of the regular stuff from Apple Intelligence. Rephrasing text snippets, summarizing emails and messages, generating with these gen emojis and clip art, which are some of it a little strange. Again, doing search in your iPhotos, which is kind of cool. Google has similar features to all of these things as well. Looking things up and being able to describe photos you're looking for. They've been dripping those features in slowly, but now they're really going to get turbocharged when iOS 18 finally happens. But there's a lot of people who would like to be able to do more with their phones than simply have them write emails better for us or summarize meetings, meeting minutes, and stuff like that. So my question, just a quick round robin with you folks, because we all have things that we might want out of our phones. There's another article in TechCrunch we'll link to in the show notes that talks about, the real AI juice is going to come when third-party developers start hooking into the APIs that Apple is making available for third-party apps. That should be interesting. But some of the things, be able to connect into your books, books apps, web browser apps, camera apps, document readers, file management apps, journals, email, photos, presentations, spreadsheets, whiteboards, word processors, all of these things you'll be able to connect in through things like the Apple automation features and the AI feature, the AI hooks, lists, notes, media, messaging, payments, restaurant reservations, voice over IP calling, and workouts. So my question to you three is, what do you want to be able to, what kind of AI powered features that don't exist yet do you want to be able to just like bark at your phone and have it do it for you? Let's start with you, Will.
Oh man, so threw me right in the deep end. I honestly don't know. I mean, I think some of the things that I would like from AI is just better imagery and being able to talk to an image generation, and be able to tell it like, hey, no, dumbass, I don't want 78 teeth or 7 fingers.
I told you 74 teeth. Come on, get it right.
Yeah.
What is this, Venom?
Yeah. I also have simple problems like, okay, I would like a portrait of a head in a comic book style, in the style of Jim Lee or the style of Jack Kirby. I'd like one person to be this, one person to be that. And then it does it, and they're like profile. And I'm like, no, I want it to look straight ahead. And it still does it. It's like, what do you want me to say to you to get this to look forward? And it's just like frustration. And to be able to talk that out as someone who finds it easier to talk stuff out than to have to try to type it out would be, I mean, I don't know if that's what you're asking, Tristan, but to be able to communicate with AI in a more streamlined way to generate images would be
well, and to your point, one of the demos they showed in Apple's presentation was having a conversation with the intelligence features and actually kind of stumbling halfway through and changing one's mind and saying, no, actually, blah, 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 blah. And it's able to maintain the context of your request and get it to you straight. And other demos we've seen from other LLMs, large language model purveyors, such as Meta, OpenAI, Google, Anthropic, and others, is getting us closer and closer toward that with these multimodal models where they include vision and voice and whatnot, where we can have these conversations. And ultimately, we would hope that this would come to Apple Intelligence as well. So whether it's we're trying to ask it to do text-based stuff for us, or in your case, Will, the visual stuff, and I mean, I'm not sure what your need is to be able to do this on your phone per se, but these features that we're talking about for the phones, because that's Apple's largest footprint, will come to the Macs eventually that are capable, that have the right hardware in them with the M4. I mean, they were saying M3 is for Apple Intelligence. You remember in the spring? Oh yeah, the new the new MacBook Air. Like, yeah, this is the best laptop for artificial intelligence, and people are like, really? So the M4, it got an M3. The M4 devices, when they start rolling out, maybe this fall. We've had the iPad Pro, the M4 iPad Pro so far. Once Apple starts firing on all cylinders when it comes to their intelligence efforts, eventually we'll get that kind of capability onto the desktop machines and laptops, which is, I think, probably where you're still going to be doing most of your work, if I'm not mistaken, Will. But do you want to be able to be walking to work and like you have an idea and being able to do some of this image generation on the fly with your phone? Would that be part of the dream?
Yeah, I mean, I think that would be part of the dream as well. I mean,
Gotcha.
I can tell you that being delayed 2 hours in the airport last night, I would have liked something creative and fun to be able to do. So I find I talk to my phone, more and more. I find it easier. I'm a little bit better at being slightly dyslexic. I find it a little easier to talk stuff out than to type it out. So I mean, like you say, I mean, I think my main ask would be a better voice interface, and like to be able to carry on a conversation while generating images. That's a continuous stream. It's not like, hey, I'm going to fire this off, and then you're going to kind of forget about it, and then I'll fire it off again, and then. I mean, I think talking on a phone is more natural than talking to my computer, so maybe that's where I'm coming from as well.
For sure, especially when you're like walking on your own across a bridge and you're not like in a coffee shop talking like to yourself like a madman, or at home disturbing your wife and cats. The power of these enabling these third-party apps to tap into Apple Intelligence and talk to each other will be us being able to string together a number of actions into sort of macros, or help develop sort of agents which can do a number of things for us. So, Gray, what is your wish list for being able to for Apple Intelligence on your Apple devices, be it iPhone when you do upgrade at some point in the future, or other Apple devices?
It's stupid. I'm going to warn you now. This is stupid.
That's our middle name.
But what I would
Momentous Stupid Live.
What I would like is for my phone or my AirPods or my Apple Watch to capture a rolling 5-minute audio of what's been going on around me in the last 5 minutes. And then for me to be able to go, oh, hey, it's that guy, or we're talking about a movie. It's, that guy. You call the app that guy. And contextually, it analyzes what's going on around you, perhaps using GPS and what you're tuned into on Apple TV. Oh, hey, it's that guy. He was in that thing. I'm using Contact. I usually plays a cop. William Fichtner. Great. That's what I want. I want to be able to look or see or talk about that guy and have the phone tell me exactly who it is, and not rack my brain for the next 3 weeks trying to figure out who that guy was. That guy. That's the feature I want. That's it.
Well, that's sort of the dream of ambient computing. We got all these sensors around us, microphones, cameras, and the like. I think we've talked a little bit about the various AI pendants and things that might hang around your neck. There was the the rewind, the limitless, and others which are simply recording all the time, and then maybe transcribing, or you can go back and search previous conversations, or it's listening to what you're doing. We've got all the intelligence in our phones as well. So even the whole ecosystem of computing around us for our phones and our watches and or our AirPods now, there's a lot of ways to get information in and out of there. So yeah, that is a very very cool idea. Just having that, and even like it being able to whisper, like you say you're having a conversation with friends, and you've still got your AirPods and you're blah blah blah, and you're like, and you say to them, oh yeah, I was what was that thing, you're trying to remember that blah blah blah, and Siri whispers into your ear, it's like, it was butternut squash. Oh yeah, that's what it was. That was the missing recipe ingredient for the recipe. But having your little assist, I mean, that is totally doable eventually, but it's all about assessing your environment and capturing context, and you could set it up. But that'll be, we can have our little super geniuses in our ears helping us out. Jerome, what sort of AI would you like to see from Apple? What sort of features would really help enhance your life that we haven't seen yet?
Well, I think Will and Gray have some great suggestions, and I think, of course, in the future, there'll be something to be said for Siri or whatever to be listening to what's going on and say, based on what I've heard and seen, I have this suggestion for you, for your well-being, or for helping your this project or situation that you're
Stop
in.
Scrolling, will you?
Yeah, you've been scrolling for 6 hours.
It's affected your sleep apnea.
So, some of the apps can already do that, is the screen time. But I thought what they mentioned that Apple's first intelligence would be able to do was very underwhelming. I would have been more happy with something which I don't think would be too difficult to do, but would be much more impressive, which is just basically help us to use our devices more effectively. Like, I just dream of being able to ask Siri, like, how do I do this thing that you can do, that the iPhone can do, or the iPad, and I don't know where to find out the setting or the function to do it, or like make a shortcut so I can use Perplexity app while I'm using CarPlay or with voice mode or something. Like those basic things like that shouldn't be difficult, but they haven't suggested anything like that being possible yet. And so I was a bit disappointed, because that's something I think would be simple enough, and I would like to be able to do the most at this point, and without having to do a lot of searching or figuring it out, looking through menus and in the settings or something.
For sure.
So.
And that's something that Apple should be able to do on device. It knows about the built-in apps, especially, and then third-party apps. They could help inform the system. All the technical documentation, manuals, and so on. You should be, and I think that is something that Apple has mentioned that they will be doing. It's like, how do I whatever, enable automatic dark mode or whatever, and just it should be able to take you right there and save you.
Or why isn't this working right now as it should be, like when after updating my OS or something, like.
And just the way that might make things more accessible to everyday users, the non-techies who don't have the time or the patience to like dig, or even the wherewithal to sometimes people don't know what they don't know. I was actually talking to a vendor of ours today, and he didn't know half the features in his camera. He was trying to send or he was trying to upload a photo into the Google Lens in the Google app, and he knew you could take a picture and do it that way. But it's like, well, how do I upload? And I'm like, bottom left corner, there's a little picture of a landscape. And if your vision's not that good, if you're as you age, you might not notice what that is. And if some people are still kind of scared to touch things on their devices as well, so I just said, it's just right there. And he's like, oh yeah, it's like it's been there the whole time, right? And as I know we're all kind of our tech friends to other like friends and family members, and it's it's sometimes going to be a challenge being patient with people, because things that may seem so obvious to us just aren't, because others aren't like living the tech all day,
especially with
every day. So
especially with our aging
Yeah,
population, the majority of our
exactly.
population, and the app developers for a lot of these apps are really not thinking about user friendliness, and often the most frequently used button or function on
Yeah,
a lot of
yeah,
apps are in the weirdest and most like non-obvious place. So
exactly. So if regular folks could just say, hey Dingus, how do I upload a photo to the Google app, and it would just show you, like, that should be
yeah,
doable. And I think that is going to be a game changer. We've talked about the evolution of computing interfaces over the years. Punch cards to blinking LEDs to display terminals, like with command line interfaces, eventually to graphical user interfaces, and then to slowly but surely into voice. It's taking us a while. Siri showed us a great promise, and Alexa, Google Assistant, we're getting there. Especially now as these assistants get powered by large language models, and the power of AI and all that. I mean, we can see it. We're so close, but it's
yeah.
just a question of making it useful for everyday folks.
And that's always been their forte, is making tech easier for the average person. And so I think this is really something they need to jump on and make it happen, as their history and legacy has proven to do.
Exactly. A couple other little quick related AI stories before we get into our kind of the last couple of stories and wrap this up, because it's been so much Apple goodness. A couple of things. We'll include links in the show notes. Now AI can generate Doom without a game engine. So just like we've seen before with throwing all sorts of game footage at AI and to teach it how to play, now AIs can learn how to actually create games or levels in games by watching stuff, which is pretty wild in itself. So we've got Doom as one example, and then there was another new AI model learns, in quotes, how to simulate Super Mario Brothers from video footage. And this is a project called Mario VGG. Of course, I'm under contractual obligation to include every Mario story. I think Will has blackmail material on me, so anything that's Mario related, we have to include as Momentous story. Will, how excited are you now that AI will be able to simulate Super Mario Brothers from video footage, and maybe someday, maybe even be able to make levels, or we can combine Doom and Super Mario Brothers?
Oh wow. Yeah, no, that'd be awesome. As you know, I'm all about Super Mario Bros. I was on a trip recently and I bought a Super Mario Brother hat that I wish that I had worn today. So I'll have to show you guys sometime. But that's awesome.
We'll keep it a thing. We'll include a link in the show notes for folks, but it's just another example of what people are throwing at AI, learning how to not only play these things through observation, but also create through observation, which is pretty wild stuff. Speaking of games and creating, the long rumored Sony PS5 Pro or PlayStation 5 Pro has been revealed with a larger GPU, advanced ray tracing, and AI upscaling for the princely sum of $700 US. Gray, who is this for?
Someone who's on the other side of the shark that it just jumped. Like, here's the thing: you're gonna spend $700 on a PS5 Pro, buy PC. That's it. It's like lovely, wonderful, fantastic. I have yet to play a PlayStation game on the PlayStation 5 where I was like, what would be really great? More power. It's fine. God, I'm getting off my lawn here, but honestly, this rings of $599 US on the PlayStation 3. I'd say I'm heartbroken, but I don't care.
Well, you could crank your settings, increase your frame rates. I mean, is there not value to that?
Yes,
If you
I'd
squint
be very
real
happy
hard?
to crank my settings and increase. Oh my God!
Well, I think some of the commentary I've seen is that this is really geared towards people with large screens. The TVs are getting
Yeah.
bigger and cheaper, so that's maybe where
Have
you
they
would really
tried-
benefit from the. Sorry.
Have they tried just not having as good eyesight? Like this for me actually is.
The problem is
sort
they're
of-
young, Gray.
Okay, so this is it. Work on getting older. and working on macular degeneration. That
That's
will
right.
save you a ton of money in the long run.
Exactly.
You don't need the ray tracing. You
Yeah.
just need to be able to see the big blob of light on the screen. It's fine. There.
Well, the good news is, at least for that $700 US price point, you don't get the optical drive. That's
But you do
that's
get
another.
the capability of adding one on, which is always a cool thing. You know, if you're to like take some sort of system and like integrate other components into it by building it, sounds like a personal computer. And we're done here.
Yeah, with no
Appar-
optical drive, then what? Yeah, what is the difference between? It's like, what is the advantage? Get a controller?
Well, no, the controller is exactly the same. It's just basically it's more powerful. This is kind of
Got
like
more guts.
yeah, it's for people.
They always
that-
do this to a certain extent. They come out with a slim.
Which they did
try
last
to-
year, yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead, go on, Fred. Will.
Oh, they like to do this sort of at the I don't know what you even call it, the last half of the life cycle, or
Yep.
the last third of the life cycle, where they start pumping out different colorways, or slim, or pro, or what have you. So this is sort of just another stab in the dark for a niche market. And there are, I mean, I work in a video game company, and I'm not necessarily saying anything that's to my company, but I see a lot because I'm very into looking at different things in the video game market, and I especially feedback, which is one of the things that I like to look at, what people are commenting on certain games. And there seems to be a lot of feedback, especially about like displays. Like, I have an 8K 72-inch TV, and it has like borders on it or something. It's like, well, we didn't make it for that, so I don't know what else we can do for you. So some of this, actually, to me, it sounds like a little bit of that. I could be wrong, but it's like catering to the real, like, 1% of people, or people who have really crazy.
The whales.
I'm thinking more about Steam, where it's like, the people have crazy monitor sizes, like curved, narrow monitors and stuff like
What have
this.
they done here? They pioneered the macro transaction.
Well, this Nintendo Switch has also done this. They came out with an enhanced version. So
Here's the thing: we're what, maybe 2 years off the PlayStation 6. If you don't have the 8K display, if you don't need to
Maybe 3 or 4.
think so?
Yeah, I mean, it seems like the 5 only. It hasn't been. How many years did the 5 go? Did the
4
5?
years.
come
Well,
out?
we had a
COVID
blip in
destroyed
the
our
middle
brains,
there.
so,
We had
yeah.
a blip while that was going on, so it all
it's been
sort
4
of
years.
erased. Yeah.
4 years?
Yeah.
Okay, so probably 2 or 3. I mean, it's generally 7, right? So, but like it is like to Will's point, I think we're on the back half of this generation. People are thinking, oh, is this going to be the 6? No, this is just the 5 Pro for those people with the 80-inch screens, and they want their 8K 60 frames per second to play, Gran Turismo 7 or whatever. And some of the commentary out there is saying like, yeah, it looks great, but people who have smaller screens or less demanding games, it's obviously not for them. I think, just very quickly, this is a story we didn't get a chance to talk about this over the summer, but there was of course Comic-Con happened, and there was all sorts of trailers, news in the sci-fi, fantasy, comic book related stuff, etc., etc.
Oh, jeez.
And there's lots of interesting things coming out. We saw teasers for Fantastic Four, for Star Trek Section 31, which is which honestly didn't think the trailer looked that great. Like the idea of
It's
the
a little
Penguin.
cringy.
Yeah, the Penguin TV series trailer starring Colin Farrell in the titular role. Interesting things like Silo Season 2, Lower Decks. Was it? Are we at Season 4 of Season 5? The final season of Star Trek Lower Decks coming out. In a Violent Nature 2, which like the first one just came out, and that was wild. If you want to watch some guy crawl out of the ground and wander around the forest for an hour and a half, killing people in grisly ways. More Walking Dead installments, some Rick and Morty, some Invincible, some Doctor Who. Rings of Power Season 2 has just started as well. So lots to choose from, and for those who are in fans of those sites. Anything jump out at you, Gray, from what we saw from Comic-Con? Anything that you're looking forward to?
Really, just Star Trek, Doctor Who, that's kind of where my attention span is. That's it.
Gotcha. How about you, Jerome?
Yeah, seeing Michelle Yao return as Philippa Georgiou would be very. I'm intrigued. I'm going to give it a chance, but it needs to be good. But Silo too is also because I enjoyed the first season of Silo, and I'm looking forward to that as well as it mentioned. Of course, the now we have a date for Severance, which is those are both
Season 2,
very good
yeah.
series, sci-fi series that we are a lot of us are looking forward to. So that's nice to see. Um, yeah, and Alien game, but not much on the Alien Wayland TV series. But I know that's coming next year. But there's a game so that was interesting. I didn't know about.
How about you, Will? Anything from the July's Comic-Con that got you intrigued?
I'm a big fan of unfortunately the whole animated DC universe, and
Okay.
I'm actually really interested in the Creature Commandos.
I didn't even hear that.
And
Tell us about that. What is that?
well, it's basically Task Force X, which is it's sort of an offshoot of the whole. I can't think of the name of it. The movie that came out.
Suicide Squad?
Suicide Squad. So it's offshoot of Suicide Squad. Task Force X is Suicide Squad. So this is sort of another play on that. It also feels a lot like what's it called? Sinister Six, I think. I have to remember the name of it. But there's another comic book in the DC universe that this feels a lot like as well. And I have a lot of time for DC animated, much better than the movies, of course. The great Bruce Timm and Paul Dini with their series in the 90s and the 2000s, and their movies in the 2010s. And it didn't make my pick this week, but the new Batman show that's on Prime is actually pretty good. Pretty good. I'm anything DC animated has me in. So and you've got Viola Davis coming back as Amanda Waller. So it's pretty much she's one of those few like voice actors that's like nailed a role that no matter what version of the character they're doing, they pretty much have to cast her in it. So
and it's nice because she's in the live action as well.
She's in everything. She was in live action. She was in Justice League Unlimited. She was in all the animated series. So she's pretty much owns that role, which is funny because I watched. This is how much of an animated dork I am. So I was watching the special features like 10 years ago, and they were saying like she doesn't even remember the role when she comes in and reads for it. She's just like, oh yeah, what am I doing? What's the character again? Like she just kind of shows up. She's such a pro that she just kind of wings it, and they're just like, you nailed it on the first take, and like we had to explain the character to you for the 14th time. So maybe she's gotten it by now, but yeah, so.
I guess as an actor, you've got to just sort of flush your brain and get into whatever the current job is.
Yeah, well, and especially with Justice League Unlimited, she was just kind of doing one-offs. It wasn't like she was doing a series, right? So I could see that a little bit where it'd be like, 6 months and they might bring her in again. So it was kind of like, I think that's probably what was going on there. But anyways, side note.
So with some of these, when they start hitting the screens, small and large, we look forward to eventually talking about how much we enjoyed them or didn't. But speaking of enjoyment, let's get to our momentous picks and see if we can wrap this thing up. We've got Jerome. This is your what's your pick of the week here?
This is my first exploration into the role of having a robot, and I've held off a long time, but now with two boys and the constant mess and busyness, I'm like, that's it. I need someone to clean up this place. And I was like, when I heard about this thing, I was like, yes. This thing is like way beyond a Roomba. This thing is crazy. It has LiDAR technology to scan rooms. It can scan your entire room and figure out, that's going down the stairs, so I'm not going to go there. And this is and you can take the map that it creates and then say, don't go in this area today because I need to move some stuff around. Or you can say, this is a bathroom, so I want you to mop this area with the mop attachment that it has. and then the rest of the place, like just clean it normally and vacuum it. You can. It has a very strong, like very powerful vacuum with 3 modes. So you can decide, okay, this room is always very dirty, so I'm going to put it on full power, but not everywhere because that'll wear out the battery. And
Right.
then you can decide where it needs to be cleaned more. And then you can move it to another floor and say, okay, this time you're cleaning this floor, and then it'll figure out where it is with the map and then clean that floor. And then there is a base that you can put it on that cleans, sucks all the dirt out, and then even can cut hair, which is another big problem with robot vacuums. Yeah. The problem is they get hair caught up in them. So this has a blade on the base. If you get the base, cuts the hair, then sucks it all out of the vacuum into the bag. And for like maybe a couple $100 more, maybe it's just under $200 to get that full functioning dock that also charges it, and it can find the dock on its own. You don't need to put it in there, and it's just crazy. And it can climb over things like I have these like bar stools, and it just figured out how to climb over the base without getting stuck. And I was like, what? I thought it would be just jammed up in there and stuck on these bar stool bases, but it was just finding its way over it, like lifting itself up, and like it was crazy.
Just wait till you wake up in the middle of the night and it's staring at you from the end of your bed.
And
it almost
your hair, apparently.
Well, the robot itself doesn't do that. It happens on the base, but
it's bringing the base with it. We're setting up shop while you sleep.
Yeah, so it's very intelligent and very high functioning, and it has a lot of options in terms of programmability on the map of what you want it to do. And you can say, just clean this one part of the room, it's really dirty right now, and then go back home, so you can program it to do that, and it just works very well. Now the one thing is, which I think is probably the case with any robot vacuum, is once it gets onto my iPhone cables, that's a nasty situation. You need to get the cables out of the way, but other than that, it has had no problems with even carpets with tassels on it. It had no problems most of the time.
So worst case, I can just drag those cables back to its base and cut them up for you.
Hopefully not. It probably just get all tangled up and stop and say, help me. It'll speak. It'll say, I'm stuck here and you need to get me loose. And then you just hit a button and it'll resume where it left off and clean the rest of the floor.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Am I the only one here without a robot vacuum now?
No, I don't have one.
You don't? Okay. Hey, Gray, do you have one? No. Wow, it's Jerome. You're leading the pack.
I'm the first early adopter. Yay.
Okay. For some reason, I thought Gray and Will. I thought you guys had them as well. But
and in case you don't recognize the brand, Eufy is a offshoot of Anker, the Japanese company, I believe.
I think Anker's Chinese.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe Chinese. Yeah.
That's all right. So they'll cut your hair and then send samples back to the PRC. All right. Gray, your pick of the week is Chaos with a K.
Yeah, so this is a great series with obviously Jeff Goldblum. If you're watching the video, you can see this here on screen. It tells the story of Orpheus in the underworld. It is a modern day retelling with sort of Greek mythology set in, our current time. I don't want to say too much about this, other than I am really enjoying it. From what I understand, Hugh Grant was actually cast as Zeus the first time, and or they couldn't get him for Zeus, so they got Jeff Goldblum. Some people are saying Jeff Goldblum is miscast. I cannot disagree more. He is phenomenal. Like, everyone in this is just great. I'm on the 4th episode. You might have just seen Billy Piper there from Doctor Who fame as well, playing Cassandra. So, just fantastic. Loving it. I'm going into episode 7, I believe. Yeah. So there are 8 episodes total. It's on Netflix. Can't recommend it enough. Enough said.
Tristan and I have been hearing about it, so you're not the first.
Yeah.
To bring it up.
A friend of the show, Tim, was telling us about this show as well. So endorsements all around. We'll have to check it out. Will, your pick. So, and just in case anyone didn't catch it, the Jerome's pick was the Eufy Clean L60.
Yes, I forget sometimes that we have audio only podcasts, and we need to mention the model number, the L60s. That have a lot of
need to do a better job of introducing. William, your pick of the week.
my pick is Deadpool and Wolverine.
Thank you.
And I know this has been around for a while, but I haven't been on for a while. We haven't done one in a while. Um, I really can't say enough good things about this movie. It really was one of my favorite movies of the last few years, if not of all time. I really enjoyed it. I have a huge affinity for the Wolverine character. He was always a character that I um, identified with and liked as a kid, as a teenager. And being Canadian was part of it, and being a badass was another part of it. And I have to say this is probably one of the best representations of the character. Period. Um, I like the Logan in many ways. I know a lot of people love it. I had some problems with it, but I liked it. I thought that one was pretty good. It was maybe the second or third best Wolverine movie, or a movie that Wolverine's been in, but this is probably the best for me. And you definitely it's a tour de force by Ryan Reynolds. It's a Ryan Reynolds movie, but boy, does Hugh Jackman act his pants off and really do a good job with the character.
And his
There's
sleeves, apparently.
yeah, there's lulls, there's great callbacks. It sets up kind of the next stage of Marvel.
And so far, just to clarify for our parents, that's lulls, Lulz, not
Yes,
lulls like Lulls. There are very few actual lulls in this movie, but there's lots of lulls.
lulls. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that you know letting a character like Deadpool, who breaks the fourth wall, talk about the Marvel Cinematic Universe is great in order to get it to reset. And some of the lines from the movie just help put it in a new direction. And for all those reasons, this is really one of my favorite movies.
So, what put it over the top for you versus the other depictions of Wolverine, including Logan? Like, what was the thing that made this the best Wolverine in your mind?
Well, I think Wolverine is always best when he's a bit tortured, but also, wants to do good. And I think also the fight sequences, quite honestly, were um, really well done. I also think that there's this tension a lot of times with Wolverine about being a loner, being part of a group. A lot of the first three movies of the Bryan Singer movies,
X-Men ones, yeah.
the X-Men ones. It was complicated because they're trying to get so many characters in. So you're trying to develop so many characters. This was
It's
just
the
two
Eternals
characters.
problem.
Yeah, the Eternals problem. I think the other thing that they really suffered from, I'm getting really Marvel nerdy here, is that there's this phase that Marvel went through where they tried to make Wolverine like the head of the X-Men. They actually had a book called Wolverine and the X-Men. They had an animated show called Wolverine and the X-Men. It's like, no, it's not Mick Jagger and the Rolling Stones. It's the Rolling Stones. It's not. It's and that always bothered me when they tried to tell the story through Wolverine, and it's like he's just one of the characters. And so to have a story where it's a little bit more. It's about him, but he's not the star of the show. Is interesting as well, and I appreciated that. But the other great Wolverine movie was the one where he's in Japan. Was that The Wolverine? I can't remember. The names mean nothing.
It was the
to
second
me.
of the because there's
Yeah.
X-Men Origins Wolverine, and then there's another Wolverine.
Yeah.
I think the second of the two was
The
the
second
better.
of the two, and that one was quite good as well, and
Yeah.
a very very good depiction of Wolverine.
And that kind of tied into the miniseries from the 80s, right?
Yes,
of
yeah.
comics.
It was
The one I had and
shot.
sold when I was broke in the early 90s. I sold my 4.
I still have it. But anyways,
Yeah, it's an interesting pairing because they're both kind of indestructible and they both have this lost love history,
Yeah.
so it kind of makes sense. But I don't know. I have a hard time. I love Logan, and I felt like this was a bit sacrilegious. I go back to the first early Wolverine #1 that I still have not the most valuable one, but I have a Wolverine 1 to 4, and I don't know. You can argue this is not the the Logan Wolverine. But
Yeah,
there's a lot
different
of
universe. Yeah.
sacrilegious stuff going on here. If you're a real Wolverine fan, I think you'll be disturbed in a way.
I prefer to use the term sacrilegious.
Sacrilegious.
I think my biggest
Debasing the
problem
subject,
with
but I found it fantastic.
I think my biggest problem with the Logan movie is that there's a comic called Old Man Logan that was loosely based on, and I just like that book way better the way that it went, and I just really had a problem with them killing him and the way that they killed him and the duplicate and all these things. Spoiler alert. There was a lot of problems with that movie. There was a lot of soul to that movie, which I think was very good in the passing of the torch, but the mechanics of some of it was pretty ham-fisted, and I know that people liked where they left the character, where they said, look, this is Hugh Grant's last finale and all this kind of stuff, but then I loved how they brought it back. It's like, he's going to be doing this till he's 90, kids. So I mean, that some of that was, yes, there was some sort of play on the Old Man Logan, but there was also a bit of a wink and a nod. So, Hugh Jackman, not Hugh Grant. Sorry,
it's okay.
Yeah.
It's the cold brain. I'm on Sudafed, right. So
yeah, and I get that. Like I'm not sure how I felt about the first 20 minutes or so when they were. I mean, they.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, the desecration of the body and all that kind of stuff. It's like, oh. But I think the one thing that did save Deadpool and Wolverine, like I really enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun. I mean, I'm not sure if it was quite violent enough, but it did have heart. Like despite the breaking the fourth wall, despite all the the body humor, despite the violence, it did have an emotional core to it, and I think that's I bought into that. Very quickly, my pick of the week, Alien Romulus, which had the opportunity to see the remaster of Alien, the first Alien movie in the theaters in the springtime for the 45th anniversary. That was great, really held up well. At the beginning of that movie, however, before they played the movie, they had a 10-minute interview between Ridley Scott and Fede Alvarez, the director of Alien Romulus. So it was almost like a passing of the torch from the senior director to the junior one. And Fede Alvarez, for his part, he had directed the remake of Evil Dead, which had got decent reviews, and also Don't Breathe, which was quite good as well. But I mean, he is best known as a horror director. And, as most of us know, the first Alien movie really straddled that line between sci-fi and horror. And it's pretty scary. My dad tells the story. When he saw Alien, the original Alien in 1979 in the theaters, the guy he went to see the movie with had to walk out. He was too scared.
Yeah.
And then, of course, with Aliens, which was directed by James Cameron, it was more of an action movie with space marines and stuff like that. It leaned a little less on the horror, still tense. But this one, I thought, did a good job of going in between. It takes place chronologically in between Alien and Aliens, and it had horror elements. I thought, despite some of the criticisms online, most of which I've ignored, I just go in and try to enjoy the movie. It did the horror well, it did the action well, and it did a little bit of the mythology as well. There was pulling in bits from Prometheus in there too, which was cool to see. And I thought it was very competently done. I know some people I saw the movie with were getting very stressed out in the third act as they just kept ratcheting up the tension, and they had a number of ticking clocks going, and it's like, oh my goodness, but like, this is what we're here for. And so Alien Romulus, that's my momentous pick of.
And there are things in there you've never seen that you've in any of the Alien films, so it's got surprises for everyone.
Exactly. All right, quick projects very quickly. Will, you got some more beats for us?
Always making the loopers. So Level Up 26 out on Tableist.net and Table Beats app. So just to recap, Level Up is sort of my general various different kinds of genre. I've got a drum and bass track on there, and some electro, and some hip hop, and some trap. I have a fun time sort of doing these where I can do a little bit of everything. So check it out. Even if I find these days I just turn a looper on and listen to it in the gym, and once every 20 minutes change the track. So it's just background music. So whether it's my looper or somebody else's, so it's not just for scratching, although obviously that's what it's designed for. But check it out and take a listen.
Not just for scratching anymore. I was checking out your latest beats today, and it's one of those things you kind of get hypnotized by them, and you're like, before you know, it's like, how long have I been listening to this one thing that's over many? How many bars do you usually do before it loops?
Somewhere between 8 and 32.
Okay, yeah. So it's just like, and you just kind of get in the zone. It's good, like for like focus when you're like trying to write or something like that. Stuff like this is actually pretty good, and it's nice to see you still. Cranking them out. We're at volume 26, just of your level up line, not to mention your other lines as well. So good on you for keeping that going. Jerome, your momentous project this week.
Yeah, I also have a new song, which is from a group I'm working with, New Future. And for those listening to the podcast, it's nufu2r.com, and it's called When We're Together. It's kind of your song about your bestie or your love and what it feels like when you're hanging out, and just that kind of blissful vibe kind of thing. And it's mostly in English this time, even though it's just a C-pop song. It's got future bass elements and Chinese instruments, so it's gonna throw you a curveball in this and probably give you something you haven't heard. So just check it out if you think that sounds interesting to you. And on the site or on any of your favorite music platforms.
So people can find it at nufutr.com.
2R.
Sorry. Yes.
With the number 2.
nufutr.com.
Yeah.
Good stuff. And we, Gray, I know you don't have a project for this week. Can you share with us what you got cooking in the labs that we might see in the future?
Baking cookies or anything goes. Could be anything.
I'm working on a spot, a 3D printed spot that I can be put on very quickly.
On the spot. My apologies. I know you've always got stuff cooking, so we can get into more details next time.
Next time.
Okay. You can just tell us it's a secret.
That's right. We could tell you, but you could tell us, but you'd have to kill us. You can just say that.
Exactly that.
All right. So our missing colleague, Tasia Custody, of course, has yet another YouTube video this week on how I organize my Google Calendar. And you can find her at youtube.com/Tasia Custody or www.tasiacustody.com. And speaking of Tasia, you may know that she and I have another little show called AI Named This Show. And this past week, we talked about XAI from everyone's favorite eccentric billionaire Elon Musk and what they've been doing with setting up a server farm, a supercluster in Memphis, Tennessee, with 100,000 NVIDIA H100s, soon to be 200,000 NVIDIA H100s in their drive toward general intelligence, just like everyone else is. So that is, you can find us at www.ainamedthisshow.com. And
somebody has some money, and
exactly.
And if you miss Tristan on Momentous every week, you can hear him on AI Named This Show.
And you can find out more about us here, Momentous, at www.momentus.tv. Thank you for joining us, Jerome. We appreciate you filling in. Gray, well, it was a pleasure. It's been too long. Hopefully we can get back to a monthly cadence. At least we were going to do July, and then stuff came up, and a lot of us, there's stuff going on. And even if we don't get back to weekly, at least monthly, there's probably going to be an Apple event in October we can talk about. And we'll just see where this goes. There's no expectations, no obligations.
Quality over quantity.
Exactly. And boy, well, aside from the quantity that we threw at folks today with an hour and 35 minutes. So thank you all. And Will, we know you're not feeling 100%. You're a real trooper. Thanks for sticking with us. We look forward to hearing more about the trip that you got back from and probably caught your ailment from sometime soon.
Get well soon, Will.
And to anyone and everyone out there who may be paying attention or not, we hope your week is truly momentous. I forgot to do this thing at the beginning. Bye.